Hello, welcome back to Illi's library, and it is currently Monday, 7:03 p.m. and I was not at the library over the weekend because I kind of had a really busy weekend. Let's see, what did I do? Friday, I think I was just like shopping and getting ready for seeing my friends on Saturday. Saturday we hung out, we celebrated some of my friends' birthdays, and they came over and we played some mahjong. And my friend had actually like a mahjong set with the designs inspired by the Fate series, if you're familiar with it. I don't actually know which characters correlate with which of the mahjong tiles when it comes to the four winds. Like, if you play mahjong, you'd know. But it was fun, and we got to teach our friends who haven't played mahjong how to play. But like, there's a lot of different rules, and there's a lot of different house rules. So I think both my friends knew how to play the Hong Kong and the Japanese style, but I mostly play just whatever I played in China with my family, and I think that version is a bit easier and beginner friendly, so we tried that version first. But it was like really interesting to see how the rules differ from country to country, and just like, I think it's kind of like Uno, where sometimes you're like, you can do double skips, sometimes you can't, or like not double skips, like wild cards on top of wild cards, or like something like that. It's just kind of like, yeah, house rules. So I feel like mahjong is just one of those games where every group that you play with has their own version of it, but nonetheless it's like a very social game, and it was really fun. So, and I haven't played mahjong, like physical mahjong, in Japan ever since I've been here, so it was like really nice to play. The sounds of the tiles like getting together, so nostalgic. That is my gambling self showing. So yeah, but we did that, and then we had some sushi, we had some Hawaiian food for dinner, and it was really nice. And then Sunday I met up with my friends. We went to Chinatown, kind of just walked around. I feel like Chinatown in Yokohama is not that great, especially compared to Chinatown in the US. And so I feel like, if you're in Japan and you don't have a long time in your travels, it's not like it's a must-see destination. If you are in Japan long term, sure, maybe it's like a thing to do, but I actually enjoy walking alongside the pier in Yokohama a lot more, like in the Mirai area. But the only thing is, like, between like where like Cosmo World, like Landmark is, and what is it, Yamashita Park or something like that, it's so crowded and it's so touristy, not only with like tourists like from outside of Japan, but I think particularly that area is actually more crowded with local tourists, because Minato Mirai is like a really popular date spot, I would say. And so you'll see like a lot of couples hanging out there and stuff. So I really love the water. I just love being by any open spaces of water, but it is a little bit too crowded, and it kind of gets in the way of the calming vibes. So actually, if I really, really wanted to be by the water, but I was still in that area, I would probably go a bit north, like past Landmark, and kind of towards like Pacifico, and stuff like that, and walk along that side of the pier. But nonetheless, it was a good time. I always enjoy looking at the architecture down there, and it's a really cool mix between just modern day designs versus your kind of European inspired architecture, because Yokohama is and was like a port city, and it makes sense that international influences throughout history would leave its mark in the visuals that you see in the buildings, and so I always enjoy walking through that area. But that was the weekend, and so I didn't read too much. I read the Goose Girl like on and off, like during my commutes. But yeah, not too much reading was done this weekend. But today I finished the Goose Girl during my commute, and today I was waiting for a friend, and so I was able to get quite a bit of reading done. So I finished it, and I feel like childhood me had a pretty good taste, or like maybe not good taste, or maybe it's just like my taste in books hasn't I don't even know which verb to use, hasn't really changed over the course of my life, because I remember this book not really leaving an impression when I was younger, and this time I read it and it again didn't really leave an impression. I feel like I know that this is Shannon Hale's like debut novel, so I kind of understand why it might be weaker compared to some of her later novels. But even though it was her debut, like the good things about the book that I enjoyed was the style of writing. Like this book is inspired by one of the Grimm fairy tales, and you can tell that her writing has a very storybook and fairy tale nature to it, and so the descriptions and the prose just feel lyrical, nostalgic, like magical. Like immediately you are immersed into that world, even though maybe the world building could be a little bit lacking, but just the prose itself feels very much, storybook vibes. It's kind of like hearing the phrase once upon a time or long, long ago. Like you don't need to know what happens after once upon a time. You like the moment you hear those words, you're like, all right, I'm in fairy tale mode. And that is kind of how I feel when I read Shannon Hale's writing. It's kind of like no matter what she's writing about, no matter whether or not I think it's a good story, the moment I read her books, I'm like, it's fairy tale time. So I think that at least is a big pro, because it just means like as an author, you have really found like a distinct style for yourself and that it is recognizable. And so I would say in this book, that would be the biggest strength of it. And other good things is, I don't really know. I like the character of Finn the most, and his mother, Gilda, and I feel like they're just adorable. I think Gilda is just one of those classic, like warm motherly figure vibes that you can't help but love, because she's very straightforward, but she's very kind and loving, but she's also kind of like, a tough love kind of person. She doesn't really care for your status. Like she'll just treat you as she should and as she wants to, no matter who you are. And she's just a very fair person. And so I really respect that in people in general. So immediately I took a liking to her. And obviously she, if you read the book, stands to kind of contrast Annie's mother. I don't know, I can't remember. Did I even talk about what like this book is about? If you're unfamiliar with the fairy tale of the Goose Girl, it is about a girl, a princess, who was born into this kingdom, and in order for her kingdom to not go to war, she gets married off to some neighboring kingdom, and along her travels, well, I guess maybe if you don't want spoilers for the book, skip like until whatever time I have given you. but it's, I guess if you know the fairy tale itself, maybe it's not so much of a spoiler, but okay, incoming possible spoiler in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so the princess gets engaged to the neighboring prince, and as she is journeying from her kingdom to the next, she has like a lady in waiting and then some like guards and like travel entourage with her. And during her travels, turns out her lady in waiting and the guards have kind of like plotted against her, and so the lady in waiting decides to take her place, and she is like left in the forests and like fleeing for her life. But what makes her special is that this girl can kind of talk to animals, and she also can kind of control the wind as like part of her magical powers. In the story, she is like, no one's teaching her how to do this, so she's kind of like figuring it out on her own. So it's not like she can create a tornado out of thin air, but like, you know, she can manipulate it to her will to a certain degree, and she can communicate in a limited way with animals, but this is supposed to be like her magical thing. So once she kind of like escapes, then eventually she somehow makes it to the kingdom, but she has to hide her identity because the lady in waiting has like taken her spot, and she finds herself in a position where she gets a job as the Goose Girl, who just takes care, you know, of the geese and herds them and things like that. And eventually, I assume you already know, like she's going to try to take back her identity and prove that she is the real princess and things like that. So that is, I think, essentially what the fairy tale is and what this book is about, and the rest of the book is just filling in, you know, the cracks of that story. But what I feel was lacking in this particular book and this particular retelling is that the characters are just so bland and so boring that it was hard to care for them at all. And so, for example, Annie, the main girl, even though she is kind-hearted, she just seems so like unaware and oblivious to the world around her. And I guess it makes sense because she grew up in like a very sheltered environment, and she grew up with the family just kind of thinking she is weak and not truly a very like tight-knit family, I would say. And so she is kind of like a loner, which I understand, but like sometimes she is so ignorant that I feel like some of the decisions and actions and the things she says just come across as a bit selfish as well. And so for me, actually, it was really hard to find her likable at all. And it was hard for me to actually care about what happened to her. And I didn't understand why her friends that she made, who seemed like more interesting, were so loyal to her, because I'm just like, this girl has no personality. Like, why do you care for her? Like, I get that you can be nice and respectful, but like to actually form a really deep friendship, like, don't you need this person to reciprocate loyalty and friendship? And I don't really see that in the story. I feel kind of like it's like her friends constantly showing up and being there for her, but I don't really see her returning the favor. So in my opinion, I don't think she's that good of a friend. And then in the romance in this book, honest to God, the boy, Jarek, I don't know how to pronounce his name, he was also bland as stale bread. And so basically he like showed up in the middle for a few pages where like they meet and they supposedly fall in love. And then literally after that he was like barely in the book until kind of the end, and in between then meeting and in between like the end where like the climax is happening, I like essentially forgot that he was part of the story, because I was just like, I don't remember who you are, I don't remember what you look like, I don't remember anything you've said, I don't remember what your personality was. And so I guess maybe they are a good match because 2 slices of a loaf rise together. I don't know how to say birds of a feather flock together, but like if they were as bland as white bread, you know, but that is the vibe. So that is how I felt about that book. But I mostly read this book because, and maybe I've mentioned it before, I remember really enjoying Enna Burning, which was the second book in this like Bayern series, and I remember that book being a bit darker than this one, and I remember just liking the character of Enna way better, and I think I also enjoyed the slow burn, quite literally slow burn romance of that couple a lot more, because I feel like in my memory the romance in that one, the characters actually like had more interactions with each other, and they actually had like, I think it's more like a friends to lovers, or maybe even like a childhood friends to lovers kind of like deal. And so yeah, I think I'm still excited to read that. I don't remember the third book of the series being that amazing, and I don't think I ever read the fourth book, so we'll see how I feel after I finish Enna Burning. If that one holds up, maybe I will continue the rest of the series, but I wouldn't be in a rush. But somehow I don't really have high hopes, because even though I absolutely adored and loved The Princess Academy by Shannon Hale, which I would recommend to literally anybody until like the day I die, that was such a good book. Later on there were sequels, 2 sequels I believe, and they were so bad, like not even average. Like I can definitively say that I thought they were bad books, and I feel like it was more of a, maybe not like a money grab thing, but I feel like the Princess Academy as a standalone is what it should have been, is what makes it really strong. I feel like it was a complete finished story, and I had no desire to know about what happened to the characters after that, because I was just like, no, the story's done, it was perfect, we don't need anything else. But then there were 2 more books, and now I just pretend like they don't exist. But yeah, but I feel like I've only read YA books by Shannon Hale, and I've never read any of her adult books, and I know that she wrote Austenland, which got adapted into a movie that I never saw, and I have only read Emma by Jane Austen. Was not a fan of that, and so I also don't really have like a strong desire to read Austenland, and not sure that I will get it or care too much for it if I'm not familiar with like the Jane Austen books. So yeah, but we'll see. I feel like this series, the Back to the Bairn series, is like really accessible on Libby. Like there's like no one checking out these books, and so they're just pretty much consistently available, which is a good thing, which means that if I am in between books, or maybe if I'm just waiting for my holds to come in, then I will at least have, you know, some go-to options. So yeah, but those are my thoughts on the Goose Girl. And I feel like even though I didn't read that much this weekend, something that I did discover this weekend is the world of AI Chinese anime. And they are exactly as you would imagine to be. They are so AI. There are so many continuity like errors. The voices are completely AI, and the stories are so contrived. But they are like reality TV, like trashy reality TV. And I feel like I'm not even here for a good time. I'm just here for a time. Like, I'm just here to pass the time. I literally just want to watch something that is entertaining enough where I am not distracted by anxious and wandering thoughts, but like dumb enough where I can actually just have my brain off, you know? And it is the perfect amount of stimulation. And because it is like, I think each one that I watch, like the shortest one could be like a 20-minute to 30-minute story, and longer ones can be up to like 2 hours. So average, about an hour for like a completed story. And even though I think they're probably released as like 1-minute shorts on TikTok, and then somebody just like compiled them and put them on YouTube, and that's what I watch. Because it's not like scrolling on shorts, I don't get distracted by watching a whole bunch of other stuff. So I feel like actually, like if I watch an hour of these AI Chinese anime, it is actually less time than like scrolling on my phone for 3 hours, and I don't even realize like 3 hours has gone by, because once the anime is finished, then like, the video is done, and then I'm like snapped back into reality. Oh, there goes gravity. But yeah, it is. I've seen so many dumb ones, and I feel like they don't even have any titles. They have the long description that would be something like, Cinderella got reincarnated as the CEO's wife, or like something like that. It would be like a description of the trope that is happening in the story. And so, yeah, but that is how I have been entertaining myself this weekend. And I am low-key kind of addicted. I think they're kind of funny to watch. And I don't even know how I came across them. I think one video was recommended, and I clicked on it thinking that it was like a Chinese audiobook, but turns out it wasn't. And then after I watched that one, it was over for me. But yeah, that has been my life. I'm trying to decide what I want to read next, because I think I have some books that are kind of coming up on their due dates. The Name of the Wind is due in 8 days, but I feel like I'm not gonna be able to finish in 8 days. And Under the Oak Tree, the webtoon, is also due in 8 days. That one I can probably finish within the time. And then I have Siege and Storm and Ruin and Rising due in 11 days. And I feel like there would be a longer wait typically for the Grishaverse books, so maybe I'm gonna try in the next 11 days, I guess, to finish those two so that other people can read them. And then I also have Little Thieves in my checkouts, and that's not due for like another 18 days, which is good, and I feel like that will be a quick read. I'm really excited to read that one because I know, Carrie Can Read has like just raved about this book, and I'm always a sucker for a book about thieves, so I am excited to read that as well. So yeah, maybe I'm gonna put Name of the Wind on the back burner and just check it out another time. But I feel like I don't really want to start another book tonight, so maybe I will try to read like a chapter or two of Under the Oak Tree. And then I have, what is it? I have books like downloaded and just like not hard copies, but like in files on my Kindle, and those have no due dates, so I'm not really in a rush to read that. But I am 12% of the way into Unsteady by Peyton Corinne, which is like a hockey romance. And yeah, but that one can kind of just be like if I feel like I'm in a slump or my books aren't downloading while I'm on the train. So yeah, that is my kind of to read list, I guess. Oh yeah, I also have Edge of Madness, which is the second book in the Edge of Collapse series, and that one I also have like permanently downloaded, so I don't need to worry about the return date on that one. But so far, I was looking at my Fable, and I have read 20 books so far this year, and it is currently June, about halfway through the year, so maybe at the rate that I'm going, if I'm able to keep this up, we'll see, because I feel like I kind of go into cycles where I will like be really dedicated and really disciplined about reading for like a month, and then I kind of will drop it. So we'll see how the rest of the year goes, but maybe I can get to 50 books this year. We'll see. Oh, I also read another chapter of The Graveyard Book today at school, and I think I had about 15 to 20 minutes to read, and so I'm hoping I can finish that book either by end of this week or like the beginning of, or by middle of next week. And so if I can average one book in 2 weeks just at school, I think that's a pretty decent pace. And then if I can finish 1 or 2 books like throughout the week, just like on my own, like commuting and reading at home, that would be nice. But as I was like thinking about this, I don't know, well, today I also got my period, so I feel like I'm in like a very good emotional state, because usually for me, I'm pretty happy on like the first day of my period. I feel like my hormones are very balanced. The physical aspect of it, yes, it's annoying, but like mentally, this is the best I will ever be within the next 30 days. So I gotta ride this high, and I got to like kind of figure out what I want to do with my time, and kind of use this moment of clear-headedness to try and hopefully organize my life so that when I'm not as clear-headed, I won't just fall into a pit of mopiness and not wanting to do anything and then feeling bad about myself. And I think it's a good thing that my friends came over this weekend, because it forced me to clean a little bit, and now that my apartment is a bit tidier, I also feel like that really did a lot for my mood. But I was kind of telling myself that I have obviously quite a decent amount of free time after work, and I usually get home around 5:30, 6 if I decide to go shop for groceries or some random stuff. And I feel like sometimes when I get home, the problem is I'm really hungry, and so I will eat, but then every time, like after I finish eating, I just don't want to move, and I don't want to get up and take a shower, and I know I need to like shower before I can go to bed, because I don't like to go to bed with like sticky, sweaty body, especially not in the summer, not in Japan, no thank you. But because I'm so lazy after I finish eating, if it takes me like forever and ever to get into the shower, that means it'll take forever and ever for me to dry my hair, and then I'll go to bed really late, and then I'll wake up really groggy, and then it's just like a vicious cycle. But I'm kind of trying to tell myself that maybe what I can do is I will tell myself that I have to finish everything by like cooking, eating, showering, cleaning, whatever, just kind of like chore stuff by 8 p.m. And once 8 p.m. hits, then it is like 100% guilt-free relaxation time. I can read if I want to, watch Netflix if I want to, watch my AI Chinese drama if I want to. Like I can do whatever I want to do guilt-free as long as I finish all of that by 8 p.m. And I think maybe I'm gonna try for that. If 8 p.m. is too ambitious, maybe by 8:30, because I just know that with my current schedule, it would be healthiest if I could get to bed by 10:30 and like be completely asleep by 11. And even better if I could be asleep by 10:30 or 10, because I have to get up at 6:30 at the latest, or ideally like 5:30, because I actually want to like read and actually have like a quiet morning, you know, before, and not just wake up and rush to get ready and then be out the door. Like I really think that my overall happiness would improve by a lot if I could just have some quality time to myself before I left for work. But that's just not gonna happen if I can't wake up early, and that I can't wake up early if I don't go to bed early. So I'm trying hard to figure out something that can work with my current schedule. I haven't really been able to commit to anything quite yet, but we shall see. It is never too late to try something new, and I feel like, I don't know, I always feel like reading, and I was telling this to my therapist last week too, that I noticed in the past couple of years this pattern between like reading and my mental health. And I feel like even when I was back in America and I wasn't feeling my greatest, if I was able to read that day, overall I would have remembered it as like a good day. And I think it just matters so much to me. Like even if the book I read was really bad, I think I still had a lot of fun talking about how much I hated reading it. And I think for me, reading is just one of those things that makes me feel so safe, and it really allows me to get out of my head. It allows me to gain a new perspective or remind me of old perspectives that I had forgotten about, and it kind of just makes my problems feel insignificant. And so I think I noticed generally that if I read, work problems are just that. They're just work problems. They're not life problems. And anything that's a problem in my life is not a problem that's going to last forever and ever. And just like the book, that problem is going to have an end, and then I can move on. So I feel like that's also why building this library and like keeping a reading journal, and hopefully in the future I can keep like, I don't know, like a watch journal or something as well, because I just feel like the stories that I consume in whatever medium they are, like truly have more of an effect on my inner and mental state than the actual realities of my life. Like, my life could be really, really shit, but as long as I have a different world to escape into, I'm like, it's fine. It's worth it, because even if my reality is really shitty, because I am here and I am in this reality, I get to go experience an infinite realm of different realities, you know, via these stories. And it just makes me feel that even if I have to dig through like thousands and thousands and thousands of like really, really bad stories, the moment you find that one good story that just hits you at the right time, it just makes everything that you've like suffered through just feel worth it. And it just rejuvenates me and gives me like a new dose of like hope. And I remember the last time I felt like this, like to such an intense degree, like I think I feel like a little kick of it every time I even just like pick up a new book, because I'm just like excited by what that story could be, you know. But the last time I felt that high of being like, even if I go on to live the worst life possible and really, really terrible things happen to me, like unimaginably, unspeakably terrible things happen to me, as long as I am alive, I will find a way to deal with it, because I have experienced a story so good that I refuse to believe that there's no hope in the world, you know? And the last time I felt like that was when I listened to the Chinese audio drama, which is based on a web novel called龙图案卷集. And to this day, I haven't finished it because I just did not want the story to end. And it's over 1,000 episodes long, each episode being about 10 minutes, I want to say, like 7 to 10 minutes, maybe, or was it more like 15? I don't know, but it is a long one, and or maybe more like 15 minutes per episode. And then yeah, over 1,000 episodes. And the only reason that I feel like better and maybe that I will finish it now is because the sequel was released, and the sequel is done by the exact same cast as the original, and the sequel is about 500 episodes long, I believe. And the web novel author is just great, and she has other books as well, which have been adapted in like audio drama form by a different cast, though, I believe. But her stories have yet to disappoint, and I think when I at least experience the drama, I really do feel like the voice actors and the author, like they really, it was just like the perfect match. Like, you just could not find another cast talented as they may be who could create the same atmosphere and vibes and capture like the essence of the book like this particular studio has. And I'm just so grateful. I like very rarely comment on things online or engage in kind of like community aspects of the online world, but I remember after a particular episode, I was like so moved. I remember just being in my room back at my share house listening to this, and I was going through a hard time, and I was just like, in the story as well, like this character was reflecting on this beautiful moment that their group was having, and he said that he was so grateful that he decided to venture out of his house with his kid and go out into this big, wide, unknown world, because if he hadn't done that, he wouldn't have met these people. And if he hadn't met like these people, he wouldn't have like built this friendship, and his son wouldn't get to have the moment that he was having right now. And it just made everything and all of like the decisions that he made, he was just so grateful that he decided to do them despite having doubts about them, despite having doubts about the world and being kind of pessimistic. He was so grateful that he decided to just give this version of life a chance. And I remember just like tearing up when I heard that, because it captured exactly how I felt in that moment. It was just kind of like, things in my life haven't been perfect. I'm very grateful for the life that I have lived, but there's a reason I'm going to therapy, right? There's a reason that I feel like I haven't really processed everything yet, that I really struggle to cry and let out my feelings, and I really struggle to like feel not complete, but just like at peace. And yet I feel like deep down inside, I'm just at my core a very optimistic and hopeful kind of person. And I feel like I wouldn't be like this if it weren't for all of the great stories that I read a kid that really ingrained this value in me, that optimism and hope is there in the world, whether or not you get to experience it in your lifetime. It exists out there, and people are feeling it. And so, bleak as your life and the world may be, there is hope out there. And I feel like every single day I just live with that hope that someday I'm gonna feel okay. And not every day, but some days I do feel okay. And on those days, I feel like even if I had to live the whole year with 364 days being really, really bad, if I could have that one good day a year, it would make all of the other ones worth it. Like, I would be able to bear it all again if I could just have that one moment. And so it really feels like every day I wake up and it's just like, gotcha. I'm like, is today a good day? I don't know, but you gotta live through it to find out, right? And so every single day I just feel like it's like a chance, and it's like a gamble, and you just never know what's gonna happen that day. You never know how you're gonna feel. It's just a scary unknown 24 hours. But if you're here, if you're alive to experience it, then you'll have the chance to find out. And I feel like even if I wake up tomorrow and the next consecutive 60 years are really, really bad, if one day I'm 99 years old and experience the best day of my life, I'm gonna be like, yes, those 60 crappy years were really worth it. And I feel like it sounds really dramatic, and I feel like my life has been relatively decent up until now. I still have much to complain about, but I also have much to be grateful for about. But I feel like, I don't know, I just have a lot of hope, and it just pushes me through. And honestly, I really think that books get me through it. You know, every time I pick up a book, I'm like, will this story change my life? Most likely not, because I'm looking at my average ratings right now in Fable, and it's a 2.8. Not a great sign if 2.8 is the average, considering that it has 20 books to pull from. I don't even want to know what my average rating is for all the books that I've read in my lifetime. But I'm assuming it's gonna be at least like a 3 or above if I still have so much hope for the world of literature. But yeah, those are just my thoughts, and I have so many of them. I don't even know. Who is Hannah Nicole Meyer, and why have I read 2 of her books? Who are you? I am so distracted. Hannah Nicole Meyer. What did you write? Hannah Nicole. She is the one who wrote Assistant to the Villain and Apprentice to the Villain and the whole Villain series. I see. Okay, well, it is 7:49, so I guess by my little hopeful schedule, I'm supposed to be done with showering and house chores and stuff, but I clearly am not. So I think I'm gonna check out now, and I'm gonna go do that so that I can, I don't know, binge watch some AI Chinese anime guilt-free before I go to bed. But thanks for coming to the library and listening to me ramble today. By the way, this is literally just a frozen orange and Mitsuya cider, which is kind of like Sprite-ish, I believe, but not as sweet as Sprite, but still like relatively sweet, but it's just like another soda-y drink. But I've been really into slicing lemons or oranges and freezing them and using them as like extra flavoring / ice cubes. And I find that I prefer oranges a lot more to lemons, because lemons are just kind of sour and they like lack that citrusy sweetness that oranges have. So oranges are just my preferred citrus of choice, I guess. And okay, I actually really like limes as well. I think I would rank it orange, lime, and then lemon if it comes to just using it as like a little flavoring thing. But limes and lemons are actually so expensive in Japan. I don't really understand. Like a single lime could be more than $1, and oranges are a lot cheaper and they're bigger, and so I have more that I can make with oranges. So it works well for me, and I think it helps me stay hydrated and make drinking a little bit more fun. And yeah, but it's not actually alcohol. But what are you drinking? You should stay hydrated too. Okay, I'm gonna go shower so that I can go lay in my bed and be a potato. So I will see you next time, and hopefully next time I will have some new reading updates. But all right, have a good night. I will see you.